This is Talking with Burritos. Thank you for listening. I am Jerry JJ Wayne Graham, and on this podcast episode, talk about Bohemian Rhapsody and how much of a travesty it is. And I'm going to preface this with a little disclaimer before actually speaking about the movie. It's not that it was horrible. It's not that it was a horrible movie. It's a well done, generic biopic, period. Everyone else involved in it, all the work they put into it, it's not to discredit their efforts. It's just that I don't think it's the movie that they wanted to make. And also in this episode, we have this, that, and other news. We have people figuring out over whales and Mui, that asteroid that came to Earth that was supposed to destroy us, maybe destroy us, that we later thought was maybe an alien vessel, maybe an alien scout coming to look at us, only on this episode. Let's get into it right now with Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, looking back on this movie in relation to the title of the film, Bohemian Rhapsody, I think there should have been more of an artistic approach to the biopic for the band Queen, and not the man, Freddie Mercury. At face value, Bohemian Rhapsody is a paint-by-numbers biopic without the, celebratory weight of a well-conceived story. They dangle Freddie Mercury on screen just long enough to reveal the plot or the plight of this man who may or may not have suffered secretly for his homosexuality. He extroverted himself through music, which is another gift that was born unto him. Now, to know what empowered Mercury to sing is to know the truth behind the lyrics of the songs endeared by us all. The reason why I say that is there has to be something. If you go back, him and his band members, they didn't just meet outside of a bar where Freddie Mercury is like, hey, you don't have a lead singer? I'll be your singer. No, he met one of the members in art school. So he went to an art academy. So therefore, you know that this guy was gifted, that his parents knew there was something about him. So maybe it was the singing. Maybe he just had this angelic voice. But we don't go into that exposition. They cut this film to appease the format of a scripted movie and not to tell an accurate tale. So take that into consideration. They did not meet just outside a bar. He was familiar with one of the band members of this band named Smile. And so to know that this man had an artistic talent, very young in life, you would have to assume to be able to sing the way he does, and those, I wish I knew terms of actually vocal terms, the man could just sing. Okay, so it came from somewhere, but where did it come from? And where did that passion, that emotion, and it could have came from his struggle of just growing up, being different, which was not really touched upon in this movie. It was just like, here's Freddie Mercury, here's Queen. Let's get started with the movie. Let's start making hits. And the same goes for the talents of his bandmates. Yeah, we know that one of them was studying to be an astrophysicist, then another one an engineer or something. But what inspired them to form this band named Smile? Whether they curtailed this movie to appease our short attention spans, or just to keep it within the parameters of like 160 minutes, Queen's biopic lacks the importance of truth beyond, entertainment. Freddie Mercury was Queen. If you look up anything about Queen, who comes up? Freddie Mercury. And that is not to discredit the band. However, some of them might have felt that way. But it's just that when you put yourself out there as lead singer and you put this charismatic, very energetic person, entertainer out there to do what? Entertain. And you get upset that, they garner more attention. That's just the way these things are. If you follow bands, Diana Ross and all of them, you had NWA, you had Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, Paula Abdul and the Green Machine. I don't know, not the Green Machine. Or, you have a lot of bands in which this happens to. And they even reference that in the movie where it's like, oh yeah, all bands kind of break up because of this. I think they were referencing the Beatles at that time in this movie. That was like a precursor, warning you that, hey, they're going to break up. As Queen is Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody is Freddie Mercury's movie made pretty lame. And it's not that I wanted a sex-fueled drug fest of disco life in the 80s, but what I did expect was an emotional tale of this man's journey to his own truth, than this behind-the-scenes instruction manual on how Queen made their greatest hits. That's basically what this was. Queen doesn't survive without Freddie Mercury, and the other way around, vice versa. So to make this film, Fox needed the rights for the movie. The surviving members of Queen owned the rights to the movie and used it to leverage how we perceived the band on screen, and maybe even Freddie Mercury. Biopic or not, Queen is one of the penultimate rock bands of the 70s and 80s. However, just as the group created songs from scratch and ingenuity, Bohemian Rhapsody, a movie about the band Queen, needed more of a free-spirited artistic version to truly portray their genius. Like The Who's Tommy, this concept film from Ken Russell, or Across the Universe, an art house celebration of the Beatles' music, or go back to give it a Andy Warhol treatment, this kind of art house style film to celebrate the Queen's music, to give that energy to Queen's music via some very artistic visuals. In light of Freddie Mercury, in light of the band, because the music outreaches all of them and will outlive all of us. Bohemian Rhapsody, this movie was initially supposed to be a Freddie Mercury biopic with Sacha Baron Cohen cast as the lead singer. Now, if you don't think that was the perfect casting, then you're crazy. Rami Malek did a good job, but having Sacha Baron Cohen, someone who resembles, at least his physique to almost a T, and even the little slight overgap that he has in his teeth, in his teeth, Sacha Baron Cohen, his freaking hairline, a lot about Sacha Baron Cohen would have really sold audiences to believe in, like, hey, this is Freddie Mercury. After he left this project, and, I think some script rights later, Rami Malek signed on, and now we have Bohemian Rhapsody. But I have a theory that this tame version of the Freddie Mercury biopic was an effort to either save his legacy from an embarrassing portrayal or to correct some things, history, that the band wants history to recognize. So number one, it is alleged that Sacha Baron Cohen left this project due to conflictions he had with this script. Apparently, the earlier scripts were a lot of scenes with Freddie Mercury engaging in sexual activities with different people and doing drugs. And it was a lot of just partying, doing drugs, and sex. And it's alleged that Sacha Baron Cohen just did not agree with that Bryan Singer version of this film and just dropped out. So it's plausible the script wasn't even good to begin with and needed some tender love and care before starting this project again, which meant they had to recast. Henceforth, Rami Malek, he comes in. And it's not that they weren't without their creative differences on this movie. Now, it's said that Rami Malek suggested the prosthetic teeth. And although it was a nice touch, I think it was an overdone reach. Because a lot of times in these scenes, you see him, you just see that the overbite is way too significant. The prosthetic that they put in there extruded his upper teeth out too far beyond his jawline, to the point you just made it look too outrageous. Whereas even in just looking at Freddie Mercury and watching some clips after this movie of him performing and stuff and talking, and yes, he does have a significant overbite. And I guess they reference it in this film that he has way too many incisors on his top teeth, and so his mouth is just really big. So he has a lot of room in his mouth for his teeth to grow. And so he grew in an extra set of incisors, of which pushed his teeth out further. Okay, great explanation. But to use it in this movie, did we need it? I think it would have been perfect with just Sacha Baron Cohen's natural, teeth, and maybe you extrude them a little bit. But with this one, it just seems a little bit too much. And that's just a little pet peeve I had. I just kept staring at those teeth. I couldn't get around it because it just kind of looked ridiculous on his face. Because you got to understand that if someone grows up with something, their jawline, their bones construct or confirm, their face confirms to the jawline and bone. And so when you have prosthetics like this and you stretch your skin over that space, those prosthetics, it really stretches out your skin and gives it this unnatural appeal. Henceforth, when people get plastic surgery a lot of times, you see like Hollywood actresses, they get that one, I don't know, some kind of tuck thing around their lips, and it kind of pushes their teeth up. I mean, their lip up to expose some teeth. It's just how the face works until your skin stretches and becomes used to that change that you've made. Whatever. But that's just one thing. So there's also this other theory that the surviving members of Queen did not want Bohemian Rhapsody to solely focus on Mercury. So, and you can say that's a little bit contrived and petty of them. And I would say that too. You would say that's just made up. People just make up things. And that's true. A lot of this is hearsay. But because if you ask them, most likely they say something totally different. Okay, but however, I'm going to give you some scene-specific examples of how this could be true. Like, here's one. With the band like in the studio without Mercury, and Brian May rallies everyone in attendance. It was Roger. Oh, wait, who was it? It is John Deacon and Roger Taylor. They were in attendance with some young ladies. And it was there, and at that time, Brian May gets frustrated at the absence of Mercury, who's most likely going to show up late. And he gets those in attendance, although those in attendance to stomp and clap the cadence of what will become We Will Rock You. Freddie Mercury stumbles on scene like, hey, what are you guys working on? And then all of a sudden we have We Will Rock You, which is apparently the brainchild of Brian May. Okay, cool. But if you think that's wasn't enough, John Deacon, okay, he starts... There's an argument between Roger Taylor and Freddie Mercury. Another studio gripe about him being late, him not being on time, him not taking things serious and not being professional. And he starts this. John Deacon starts this rift that brings them all together for that moment for "We Are the Champions." It's these cliche moments that really kind of exemplify the generic nature of this film. There's also another segment where they were trying to brainstorm songs. What songs would go on this particular album? And they happened to discuss Roger Taylor's "I Love My Car" song. And it just kept going on and on. Like, Roger Taylor, I created this song. I want this song. So, like, as if to tell us that, this song wouldn't have been on there if Roger Taylor didn't push for it. But we all know part of that rock opera album, Bohemian Rhapsody, was the song that they went with to put on the radio. And it failed. It bombed horribly. They had this scene, one of those, again, cliche scenes where you have a song playing and you have all these title cards coming up, these titles coming up on the screen, like superimposed titles of, oh, this is a horrible song, this 6 minute, blah, 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 this shouldn't have been played ever, what do they think they're doing? And so you have a lot of cliche elements in this film that are blah, that are pretty bland in nature, but yet conforms to the template of how these biopics are made. Bohemian Rhapsody, okay, it wasn't a horrible film. People came out and they enjoyed it. I dig that. We're going to enjoy that movie. Why? Because it has the music of Queen playing throughout the film. But I just don't think it was emotional enough to really garner much interest after just seeing it one time. Now, you might see Rami Malek get an Oscar nomination, or a Golden Globes nomination and maybe win an award. However, I just don't think it's a great portrayal because with this, I guess, all around trend of just, hey, if you pretend to be somebody on screen for a biopic of any sort, then, hey, most likely you're going to get an Oscar nom. And not that it was horrible, not that he was horrible. There were some technical things that I didn't like about this film. The Live Aid performance was great. What threw me off was the crowd that they added, that they superimposed in the background. I think sometimes, when I say we should be more creative with some of these things. What if you just played the Live Aid footage of Freddie Mercury? Yeah, that would have taken some stuff back, or superimpose it or put it in there, like the crowd. Put that stuff in there, and then just switch back from live action to boom, to historical fact, to footage, and kind of intermingle those in a creative way so that you don't have to spend what probably amounted to millions of dollars on superimposing this crowd, this massive crowd, and the Wimbledon Stadium, this aerial shots, and just switch back and forth and put like the old footage on there, the actual Live Aid performance, which was just groundbreaking. It was so great. Because once I watched the movie, after I watched the movie, I came home and I watched that video, that 24-minute video of Queen's performance. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, they wasted a lot of money when they could have saved that energy, all that time and energy, and just had the performance of Malik superimposed with the footage from Freddie Mercury's actual performance. Oh my goodness, that would have been great. I don't think it would have been cheesy at all. It would have done something totally different. A lot of these biopics don't do that, where they just put in their original stuff, what actually happened at the end of the movie, the actual footage. But to actually see this on screen with Malik and Freddie Mercury performing during this scene, during that last scene, would have been phenomenal in my opinion. Like, your close-up shots are of Malik. Then you pull away and you get this grainy footage of Freddie Mercury. If you can vision, if you've seen the movie or any other movie like that, where you see like Ray Charles performing in concert, but then you see Jamie Foxx in a close-up, I think you could totally utilize that to not number one, save money, a lot of money. And then just to, add that little touch of artistic creation, of ingenuity, of thought. And maybe seeing what happens. So I do have a problem with biopics. I have a problem with biopics because a lot of times if it's not done well, such as the lip syncing, it throws me off. I am very, very picky about lip syncing. That's why I can never watch Pitch Perfect. I don't like lip syncing. Once I notice that the songs aren't matching up with the performance, it really throws me off. And this entire movie, I'm thinking, hey, watching Bohemian Rhapsody, this entire movie, I'm thinking, he has prosthetics in his mouth. And I know that changes the way you speak, the way you enunciate words. I've had braces. I've had retainers I've had to wear in my mouth. And to believe that he was actually singing, I would have to be like really dumb and blind. Because yes, he performed well. He could pretend well that he was singing, but it's basically karaoke. He was just singing. No, not even that. He was just singing along, lip syncing. And that really throws me off because I like authentic performances. When you look at, what's his name? Shoot. You got Jeff Bridges. Crazy Heart. When he did that movie, when he performed, that wasn't a biopic, but it was a movie about a country singer, an ailing, country singer who was an alcoholic, who was, pretty much downtrodden. But he was He did that movie, and he performed a lot of those songs. He sang it. He strummed the guitar. He played it so it looked so natural when he performed it. You listen to the soundtrack. Boom. You could hear it. His voice on that track. You watch Walk the Line. It was this story with Walk the Line where Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon, they performed those songs. They practice. They work with the band to perform, to perfect those songs so they can give an authentic portrayal of, their subject matters. Of Johnny and June Carter. So to me, I just think that's important for these type of performances. Shoot, Ray. You look at Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx could sing those songs. He's been doing impressions of Ray Charles for a long time. So it really came natural to him to just so basically when you see this movie, when you watch it, it's like, okay, just give him the Oscar. They didn't shy away from Ray Charles as a person and say, oh, look, he's a great person. No, he had his demons. And so in this movie, I really convinced myself early like that I wasn't going to like it, that aspect of it, because I can see that these prosthetics will disable him in a way and not enable Rami Malek to perform. So I could not believe a lot of those performances. It took me out of the scene. Let's see. You had, like I said, and then also, what is it? If you recently watched A Star Is Born, which I do recommend, you have these what's his name? Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga and Willie Nelson's son, Bobby Nelson or Billy Nelson. They were in the studio for a year perfecting these songs, writing songs in the movie to perfect them, to perform them so that they can go on stage and really own the audience, perform on stage. So watching Bradley Cooper actually up there singing, that's really amazed a lot of people. He wanted to sell authenticity. He wanted to be authentic in that manner. And you really have to applaud their efforts for that because it came off so flawless, these performances. And so then watching that movie and then having to come to watch Queen, it's like, oh, okay, this is a step down from some of the other biopics that I really like. You look at Dreamgirls, Jennifer Hudson, just belting away, singing her songs. So that's my aversion to, my aversion to the musical biopic would be that. And another one is like not telling the entire story. Number 2 would be not telling the entire story, not having enough time to tell the story. Bohemian Rhapsody was at least 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 10 minutes long, but it was just filled with a lot of things that were not important. A lot of exposition to kind of pad the script a little bit, pad the story, and to move along things, and to make alterations so that they fit the story they wanted to tell, and not how the story unfolded in reality. Much like the Live Aid performance, Freddie Mercury did not go to the band and tell them, "Hey, I have AIDS." That happened a few years down the line, like maybe 2 or 3 years after Live Aid, that he acknowledged and admonished with them that he had AIDS, that he had contracted HIV. So it's things like that where if you watch a script or if you write scripts or know about story, it's one of those scene 3 moments. Like, let's bring it all together. Rallying point. He is suffering from this disease. We're going to go do this for him. Yay, hooray, let's go out and perform. So and you don't learn those things unless you do some research after. And that's what this is all about, just giving you a little bit more insight into the movie and how, I felt about the film. And I like to watch it, and I gave my opinion. It was kind of lackadaisical. I didn't really necessarily come out of there fulfilled. There were some problems. Will I watch it a second time? Maybe not, because I don't think it worked for me. But I did enjoy the music. I go in there, like when I'm doing presentation checks or something, I'll go inside the theater and actually just listen to the music because I love the music. But then what that teaches me and what that makes me, what it brings me back to, realizes that I want more story. Like if you listen to Freddie Mercury and how he sings, I want to know where that came from. Where did that voice come from? He said he was born to be a performer. That's a line from the movie. It could have been something that he said in real life. But you see that in his actions and the way he, performs on stage, that, yeah, he was born to be a performer. This is Freddie Mercury. This is who he was supposed to be. And the way he sang was just so great. And to actually be put in an arts school, so you have something, you have a talent. It was noticed early with his parents. So they put him in a school. But we don't go back that far. We don't really know that much. But that he met his bandmates there, or at least one of them. That just really makes me want more of the Freddie Mercury biopic. Just more story of him, because he's a very interesting character. And it's good to know for history's sake. But yet, even watching some of the documentaries and some of the interviews after Freddie Mercury's death, his bandmates, even they were saying like, oh, he was a very private person. Very secretive. Therefore, if the people around him, his life partner, the person that he met later on and spent the remainder of his life with, if they didn't say anything, the woman who he fell in love with when he was young, if they didn't say anything, if they respected his privacy, then I guess it just remains to be private. We want to make a movie about it and say things about it, but it's like, okay, all the people who really knew him, they don't want to divulge all that information about him because they respect him, even in death. To have this movie out there as a pseudo Freddie Mercury movie, it's almost acceptable that they just made it a movie about Queen. They didn't really touch on one solid point. It was too all over the place for me. And I think I think they just should have made a collective effort to really pinpoint what they wanted to focus on in this movie. I say, if anything, focus on the music and just focus on all of that. That would have been great as well. We maybe didn't need the subtext if we couldn't dwell deeply into the story. And especially if you don't have any knowledge to go along with that or to back up the things presented within the film. Time, that's another thing, another aspect of these biopics that I don't like. It's just kind of, we're going to make this a movie that we want for the mainstream public, to streamline a movie and make it under a certain amount of time, or you lose people. Unless it's a good biopic. If you're telling a good story, people will be engrossed. And a lot of this movie was like tongue-in-cheek. They made like little jokes here and there. It never really took itself serious. Whenever there was conflict, it pretty much ended with the joke. I don't know if it's because all the band members were jokesters or they were very condescending to one another, but it seemed like that a lot of the tense moments were dulled by someone's offhand comment or a joke, just the start of a jam session. But, it could have been a lot better if it knew what story it really wanted to tell. Bohemian Rhapsody could have been better if it knew what tale it wanted to tell. That's my surmise of Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie. Let's go into this, that, and other news. For me, Queen wrote the theme song for Highlander. So for me, the movie, the theme song for Highlander, that's when I learned that Queen was involved, or the creators of certain hits like Bohemian Rhapsody, certain hits like We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You. I didn't know anything about them until I watched the movie Highlander, which is awesome. If you guys have not seen that, go and rent the Highlander. It's an 80s movie, I think 85, 87. It's this movie, okay? It's this movie series about these immortals. They're like immortal samurais. You know, you're born into this from a long lineage. You don't, maybe not, maybe you won't know who your predecessors were, but it's born within you. And it follows this one Klansman, not Klansman, but Scotsman. His name was Connor MacLeod. Okay, he's a Scotsman, and he gets this. He dies, killed. I think he was killed on the battlefield, but then he's resurrected. He doesn't know why, and then all these people come after him. And it's this story about these immortals, and they all live among us, secretly searching out one another to take their power. So if someone comes to you, you battle them, and they take your head, you gain their power. You absorb their power, and there could be only one. So in the end, there can be only one. And this story is based around that. You got Highlander, the movie, which is actually pretty great. I love that movie. I think you should go watch it. And just listening to that and thinking about Highlander, I'll say, hey, I'm going to watch the show, because I used to watch the show back in the 90s, I believe. I was obsessed with it, and it was still on television at that time. So I would record episodes. And it lasted for 6 seasons. It was a very successful show. But the show actually follows another, as it would say, Klansman, Scotsman. They share clans. They're part of the same clan. But Connor MacLeod is much older than this new character for the TV series, whose name is Duncan MacLeod. Okay, and it starts out with them. The first episode starts out with the gathering, in which they call this event where people all like all the immortals come together, and they just start cutting people's heads off to try to see who is the one. And it's like, I think it's I don't know how many every other years it happens, but it's the gathering. They come together, and these people, they hunt one another to take one another's power, because in the end there can be only one. So these things happen. You either seek them out or they seek you out. And Duncan's been out of the game, because there are ways to stay out of sight and out of mind. If you're held up on holy ground, then people can't track you. The Highlanders can't track you. And so Duncan's living his life. And then this episode, which is the first episode, the pilot, you have Connor MacLeod comes and visits him. Then you have this, but he's being menaced or terrorized by this other Highlander seeking to get Duncan's power. And Duncan's trying to stay in the game. But he wants to live his life with his girlfriend Tessa. For me, I really loved Highlander, the series. I got obsessed with it. I have a kilt robe type thing so that you wear. I don't understand it. It's a kilt robe. So you get out the shower. It's not a towel. It's a kilt robe. Like I said, you get out the shower. You can put it around your waist, but yet the rest of your body remains wet. I don't understand the practicality behind this damn thing. But it was cool because, it's Scots. The Scots, they wear those kilts. And so it was kilt-like. And I still have it. I'm looking at it right now. It's here in my closet, because I like to record in here because of the sound. You got clothes all around you, so the sound isn't bouncing off walls. It just stays here. But I had this, and then I joined the club. I had the watch. My wife bought me, because I think she bought me a box set that was on television, so therefore I was part of that club. I had a T-shirt. I had all these different things Highlander. But the one thing I did not get that I've always wanted was a sword. And one of these days I'm thinking I might just buy that sword. I still want it, just to put it up on the mantle, put it up on a wall somewhere, but I want the Highlander sword. Or my very own authentic Japanese samurai sword. That's another thing I want. That's way in the future, hopefully, where they still have these craftsmen, these But they craft these swords from steel, from a block of steel, and they'll craft it, they'll hammer it out, then they engrave, they inscribe it, they do everything the way they make those swords the way they were taught. They were always taught to make these swords, to really make them authentic, to make them sharp. That they were taught over centuries ago. That they did them, how they made them centuries ago. These techniques have been passed on, and there are a few people in Japan and other countries who actually do this with the swords to really make them create these authentic productions, these very authentic productions of ancient samurai swords. So I would really like one of those one day. That's my dream. Don't know why. I just want it. So watch The Highlander. I would recommend it. Some seasons are better than others. I can't remember all of the seasons, but I just started watching it again. I got a couple episodes in, but I want to continue forth, and as just a kind of binge watch. And I found it on Amazon. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can look up that series and find it there. So that was my first exposure to Queen. I would say my first knowledgeable exposure to Queen. I've heard all those other songs before, but I never knew who sang them until the card came up on screen and said, "Hey, this is written by Queen." Like, that's pretty cool. And so I want to go into this comment. I told you about this comment like in a previous episode. I think last year, back in October 2017, this comment that they named after the guy who found it was Amui Mui. Amui Mui, this Hawaiian scientist, astrologist, something. He found this comet that was kind of headed towards Earth. And the thing is about this comet is that it was oblong. It has this oblong shape. And they studied it, they watched it, thinking, anticipating, or, they're keeping an eye on it as it kind of barreled towards us, towards Earth. But what was strange about it is that it took a weird trajectory in a different direction, avoiding Earth, avoiding colliding or entering our atmosphere. So right before, and so that really intrigued scientists. People started labeling this as maybe an alien encounter, thinking that this was some type of probe or alien ship that veered off course or that was heading towards Earth, maybe scouting us out, and then just veered off and went in another direction. So it really captured scientists' imaginations, and nowadays now it's still in the news. They think that it could have been like an alien probe, a ship or something sent out to survey the area, survey Earth, see what we're all about, do some recon on us. And I thought that, I will include the link in this episode, but I think that's pretty cool because they got these, they didn't land a ship on this one, but they got these close-up pictures of it. It just looks so weird. This comet looked like nothing that they've seen before, especially because it was kind of flat. It had this flat oblong shape, and a lot of, rocks, comets are just rocks, Earth, space rocks that are diminished in size from banging around in different universes and different galaxies, banging on different, coming from an exploded star or something like that. They have these different cataclysmic things that happen in space, which produce these big, huge rocks, and they sometimes veer into our orbit, and it could be deadly. We've seen the movies. If you get a real bad one and it's barreling towards Earth, it could destroy us. Think the dinosaurs. That is suspected as what happened. That's what scientists say happened to them. Big comet hits the Earth, just ruins everything, wipes out everything. It was kind of intriguing to the trajectory in which Mui Mui took. It was heading toward us, and then it kind of just veered off. Like it did not want to come too close to Earth. And I just found that very intriguing. I have the story in the show notes for this episode at talkingwithburritos.com/86. Go check it out. And also, I want to talk about on this episode from This, That, and Other News. About 2 months ago, I read this story about a woman, actually a group of people, who called the cops on a whale. And I'm not bullshitting you. On a whale. They happen to be, and I call this like really or like this is like what happens to the open water franchise. If you remember that franchise, it's like, okay, this couple is out in the water, they're on a diving expedition, okay, and they get left, and so they're out there, and it's actually a pretty good tale about human survival and these people in their relationship, where it's really good insight on how relationship goes. It's like a relationship movie in my. It's like a romantic comedy, not a romantic comedy. Oh, no, wait, a rom com, but it wasn't really funny. Like, okay, a dramatic comedy or a dramatic love story, because they go through all different phases of relationship issues in this movie, and they're just in the water and they're just sitting there, and things starts happening. And if you think, open water, if you've seen the trailers, they're in the water, and then they start seeing sharks or hearing sharks, and sharks start coming around, sniffing them out. So this is what happens to the open water franchise. They just turn into whales. But these people, they were out on a boat, right? And these whales, they happen to just encounter whales, or maybe they bump one of them. So the whales are like, hey, what's this? That's if you see any of these stories. I saw a recent one where this guy had a close call. He was in a canoe. He was just wading in the water, just, paddling in the water. And then this whale just comes up alongside him. And this guy didn't freak out. He just stood still and watched it. Yeah, it could have capsized him, but the whale was right there next to him. He saw this big old fin, and the whale's just like, woo, just bam, right next to him. It just whizzes past him, just swims past him. But these idiots, they're freaking out. They're yelling like, oh. And just judging by the video, it's not like they were rocking the boat or anything. They were just swimming by. They just happened to encounter whales. Why are you out there if you're on their territory? So why are you calling the cops? And then if I'm a cop, what am I gonna like? It's like watching that movie, Fist Fight with Ice Cube and Charlie Day, when he calls the 911. He's like, girl, and the 911 operator answers like, man, you better go take that ass whooping. But it's kind of like that. It's like, who am I if I answer this call and this person is trying to call the cops on a shark, and you're out in the ocean? How am I supposed to get out there? You need to call Baywatch. You need to call freaking either The Rock or I don't know, Pamela Anderson. You need to call them or something. Or they should have a 911 Coast Guard service. So you can call the Coast Guard and be like, hey, I'm stuck out here and there's some whales accosting us. Okay, ma'am, like, are you really sure the whales are accosting you? Yes, they're right here next to our boat. Well, aren't you actually next to them? Because, you came out there. You drove out into the water. They've been there, ma'am. So leave the damn whales alone and go about your business, woman, and just marvel in the magnificence that is the whale. Now, if they were trying to capsize your boat, then yes. Then maybe I should alert some local authorities, not the police, because they can't drive their cars on water. But what I can do is get some local fishermen or somebody who Coast Guard area people who are out there to respond to you if you are indeed in danger, which I do not think you are. So all I do is recommend that you sit there, take some pictures, and just wait them out. They'll leave. They're not interested in you. They eat animals. They don't eat boats. Here's another thing. People, I got a problem with, as a cop, I would think, as a police officer, I don't say cop, I don't know if that's insulting or not, but as a police officer, wouldn't you be tired of people calling? I guess you have, like 911, is it for, like, if there's an animal, I get it. But a lot of times, what is this cop going to do with that animal that you call the police 911 for? Okay, I can understand rabid dog. Most likely you have to be put down. And that's what a cop will do if he sees a rabid dog trying to attack somebody. He's going to put it down. And so if he does, normally a lot of people come out, why do you have to do that? Oh, why did this cop have to do this? This or her person have to do that, kill that animal? Well, if you're there in a situation, you get called out to a disturbance and this dog is trying to attack you, what else are you going to do? When you say stop, dog doesn't stop, and he sees it attacking you, what is he going to do? Be attacked himself? or herself? No, they're gonna shoot the dog. So doesn't what does he call the dog catchers of Humane Society, Animal Control? Don't they have a 911 service? I see it on television all the time. They have animal cops, and I watch it every now and then they go investigate things. They have like an SVU type thing too, like dog DUV or AUV, Animal Special Victims Unit. I don't know, but they do have an investigation service where if they suspect there's abuse in the household where people own animals or something like that, they will do those. But how about animal emergencies? Like if I call someone, like you should be able to dispatch her for 911, or you should be able to call like 611 for animals and get an actual 111 for animals and get an actual animal control person to dispatch animal control to my location so that they can properly deal with the animal. Yes, you could probably, chime in and add the police officers to this list, and they'll come around, observe things, make sure things don't get crazy, and pull out their guns if they have to. But, these specialists, these people have tranquilizers and different things like that, which they can trank an animal and to calm their little asses down. So I'm just thinking, like, don't we have something like that? Do they have it? A lot of times, I know when I hear these stories, people just immediately call the police. Such a point. This guy, he was walking, just walking along for a stroll in the park. And this squirrel, oh, just read the story. It'll be in the show notes for this episode. And the squirrel just starts following him. And he's like a little tiny squirrel. And this guy's like walking fast. You can imagine him just walking fast. The squirrel just would not let go, would not let up. He's just following this guy. So what does the guy do? He calls the police. They say to the point where this squirrel is like a little aggressive, like really hurrying after him. And like if he would have caught up to him, maybe crawled on his leg or something like that. But, and so what am I supposed to do? Well, so what does he do? He calls the cops. Me, I'm sorry. Little squirrel legs. Now, unless he's jumping from trees and doing all these kind of acrobatics, I'm going to run away from a squirrel. I'm pretty sweet. I might look stupid, and I might get called or made fun of, and I might become a meme. Somebody might see me being chased by a squirrel, take the video, and then put me on YouTube or something. But I can run away from a squirrel, or I can fight a squirrel. Now, I don't recommend fighting a squirrel because you're much bigger than a squirrel. But I'm just saying, you have options. If this thing is running from me, most likely he probably didn't want to look like an idiot running away from a squirrel, but he kind of did look like an idiot because he most likely, I would only assume that he's fast walking, and this squirrel is right behind him, and then he's on the phone with the cops saying, I can't do anything about this squirrel. Won't you help me? Or you dump your latte, capture the squirrel in the cup. Yeah, they said it was a baby squirrel. Most likely a baby squirrel imprinted on the man. Sometimes these animals, like they do, especially in the wild like that, birds and such, they're separated from their mother. And so this squirrel just happened to say, hey, that man is my mother. And they just took after him like, oh, I'm going to follow you till the end of the earth because you are my mom. So I find that really funny. Read that story. It's actually not even that much of a story. What I just told you is what they said. And because the cops did respond and they captured the little guy. They said once they got there, the little dude just like, it just rolled up and just kind of fell asleep. So yeah, most like he was just a really young squirrel imprinted on this man and then just started chasing him. And so yeah, they had him like in this little piece of paper. And they dropped him off at the Humane Society. So what I'm saying is, like, and I know this is one of those age-old tropes where you see like a fireman pulling a animal out of a tree, and I know I can't even say that, but wow, don't they have specialists for this though? I would just think to myself like, okay, I'm a fireman, I fight fires. Yes, I do have a ladder, and I can take that cat out of the tree. I can understand that because that's just basically good. The animal control calling for backup. Hey, I need a ladder. Could y'all come out and help? But I don't know. It's just kind of weird just coming out to just or like another man. They had this 8-foot Gila monster. Not a Gila monster. It was like 8-foot 8-foot lizard terrorizing his neighborhood. Apparently it was a pet. someone's pet, but he's this 8-foot lizard, and he just keeps like he'll just go into people's backyards and stuff like that and knock on the door because he's tamed. He's a domesticated animal. So he goes and he'll scratch at people's door. But if you see this animal in your backyard, you're not going to just let it in because it's a big old monster. What does this guy do? He tells animal control like, "Hey, my animal's loose. We need to capture it." So it was eluding police, eluding like animal control for like weeks, for like 3 weeks or so. Think about it as a kid when your parents like, you can't go outside because there might be a monster out there. There was truly indeed a monster out there. And they could have freaked out and could have freaked the animal out, which could have hurt them. So take the necessary precautions. But this guy actually called animal control, told them that he lost his animal, gave them ways in which they could coax the animal back, coax the animal to them so that for capture. He did the responsible thing. He didn't just freak out and say, "Hey, police, I lost my big old alligator. Could you go get it?" I'm like, how big is this alligator? Like, there is a story about a guy who owns a big old gator, and he's like 10 feet long and just a monster. But he says that's his pet. You crazy. Only because you feed it, don't make it your pet, because he's going to freaking munch your head off if he gets a chance. Stop calling animals. Like, somebody give me a phone number, one of those magnets that I can put on my refrigerator as who to call when I need someone to chase down this rabid coyote in my yard. I told you about him too, or I told you about someone. But it's this stupid coyote. He looks rabid. Well, I think he just lost all his hair, but he might be dead now because I haven't seen him in a long, long time. But I see like a different pack. Like, because I think he was ostracized from his pack because he was never rolling with anyone. And these are pack animals. And recently, because the ones I actually really see sometimes, there are like 2 or 3 of them. You see one, you see the other ones like standing off to the side. But this one, I think he wasn't part of a pack. I think he was like, ousted. But he was like kind of mangy looking. But dude, this dude was taking out cats like it was nothing. Our neighborhood used to be full of them. When this tyrant comes around, he used to start munching on everybody. It's kind of messed up. Because a lot of people in this neighborhood, especially the cat lady down the street, she lost a lot of her cats due to this little monster. I don't see them here nowadays. In any case, if I see this thing munching on somebody's pet, who can I call? I need a magnet sticker to put on my refrigerator who will respond immediately when I say I need help. Sort of like 911. I need you to get this animal. I need that number. Is it just animal control? Because last time I tried to call them, they said, we'll be around. They just kind of come around when they need to, but I don't think, is it immediate? I'm not really sure. Whatever. All right, so my weekly gratitude for this week. I went to the doctor, and she said, "Hey, you're healthy like bull." I said, "Hey, you're full of shit." That's my weekly gratitude. No, I'm just thankful for being healthy this week, and I'm thankful for all the people, the 911 responders who have to listen to some of the most insane shit. So a lot of it is horrible, but they do have to listen to insane crap, insane stories, insane claims like, "Hey, what you gonna do about this whale?" So thank you for the first responders or for the dispatchers who work in them. My girl, Brianna, who works in this industry, who dispatches and listens to people's calls, horrible situations, but also has to endure like some of that really dumb ones. And my flavor text for the week, nothing really matters, does it? It's all in how you take it, how you look at it. Nothing really matters, but when it does. Make every day matter. Make every interaction matter. So when you say hi to somebody, say hi to them. Actually, look them in the eye and smile and do things like that. It's the small things we can do. Tell the person you have next to you love them. And try some shit in life, because then in the end, if you don't, nothing really matters. It is, you're born, you die. But you got to fill in that gap with something. You got to fill that gap in with shit that matters, because when you die, nothing really matters because you don't know. It matters to the people living, but when you die, nothing really matters. It only matters that you're dead. But even does that matter? Or it matters if you believe in a higher purpose. If you believe that you're going to heaven, that shit matters. Or if you believe you're going to hell, did you live a good life? You don't know. Well, when you're going to be judged when it happens. So certain beliefs believe that. However you want to take it, you take it the way you want to take it. But I'm just saying, nothing really matters but when it does. Take advantage of it and make it matter. That's a wrap, but not a burrito. go to talkingwithburritos.com, and for all the links and articles referenced in this episode, talkingwithburritos.com/86. I am JJ Wayne Graham, and thank you for listening.